Great. So, Aravind, nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Your company, Perplexity, is generating a perplexing amount of value, right? So I read that in December, I think you had a valuation of, what was it? You tell me.
9 billion.
9 billion, I thought so. And now, 5 months later, it is, I mean, it's not closed yet, but it's in the newspapers, 14 billion, right? So 5 months, 5 billion, you're cranking out another unicorn effectively every month. This must feel pretty wild.
Yeah, it does. I think AI itself is pretty wild. Like if you look at all the post-money valuations of the top AI companies, the startups, it's adding a ton of market cap very quickly. Of course, it's all pretty early days, and there's healthy amount of skepticism on whether it'll last and all that stuff. But one thing is clear: everybody's using it. It's not like crypto where we have to worry about what's going to happen. Of course, there's some winners in crypto too, but the main thing here is it's not creating paper money and not delivering value to people. There are people who are using these apps, be it Perplexity or ChatGPT or any of the other ones, pretty much on a daily basis for work, life, many things. And anytime product goes down, we only hear thousands of complaints. So that wouldn't happen if people were not dependent on this on a daily basis.
But what does it feel like for you to be at the eye of the storm? I mean, we all use it. We understand it's an A+ technology, but you're like in the middle of that whole craziness. I mean, does it make you crazy, or do you manage to stay calm? How do you stay calm?
Well, I hope I'm calm right now. I hope I don't come across as a crazy guy. But it does drive me crazy at times. It's just obviously. I think the speed at which these models are gaining new capabilities and constantly having to adapt the product to make use of those capabilities rather than getting deprecated by them needs you to not just be thinking about the current moment and stay in the present, but you have to split your time between what is likely to happen in the next 6 months or 3 months and what are you currently executing today, and kind of juggle both things simultaneously. And I think that's the main challenge for now.
So let's talk a bit about Perplexity. The mission, as I understand it, is to reinvent search such that you have not a search engine, but an answer engine. And so basically, you're taking on Google. And as I understand it, you've got 300 and something people. And they've got, I think, last time I looked at the data, it was 300 gajillion, whatever number of people they've got. So this is really David versus Goliath. How can you win in this situation?
By building a better product relentlessly. And by caring about the user and caring about giving a good answer over making money out of ads, and building experiences that are truly disruptive. Like giving an answer over giving a bunch of links, going beyond an answer and letting users execute actions. All these things are where the earlier product feels like a legacy product, and the existing business model that's so tied to the legacy product cannot adapt so quickly. So you do catch Goliath at an innovator dilemma, and you delight the users and change their habits. And then over time, you start accumulating your own capital, your own user base, your own revenue. And hopefully 5 years from now, you don't ask me this question of David versus Goliath, because hopefully we are pretty big enough by then. But now it's always good to motivate the team, and there are users rooting for us because they do like this journey. They do like this upstart challenging the 20-year-old monster.
Everybody's chugging the protein shakes as fast as possible to become Goliath as well.
Yeah, protein shakes, Diet Cokes, whatever needed. Yeah.
And there must have been a moment in this journey where you built a feature into Perplexity, and you thought, aha, this is really what we're trying to do with reinventing the organization of information on the internet. Can you share an example of some real watershed that you crossed?
I would say the first real breakthrough for us was when we started doing these models that were doing multi-step reasoning. So of course, the first ever launch was just simple RAG, take the top K links, take the snippets in those links, and do a summarization and reference the summaries to the relevant sources through footnotes. Very simple idea, nothing that other people couldn't have thought of. But over time, we built more depth into the product. Okay, like, what about questions that cannot just be done in the simple RAG manner where the model has...
By RAG, you mean combining a large language model with search?
Correct. And the questions could be ambiguous, the questions could be complicated, break it down into parts, do separate searches for each of those steps, combine the results of each of those steps, and give an answer. So that became our pro searches. And then, okay, like, there are so many types of searches. Users don't just want a wall of text. They want tables, they want charts, they want UIs that are like having visually rich information. Increase the density of information in the answer so that like people don't feel fatigued reading like long text. That requires you to build custom components and UIs for different types of queries. That requires you to understand what the user really wants, build these classifiers across so many different verticals. So all this adds so much more dimension to your product than just like a wrapper over a language model and a search index. And then research agents, like deep research. We're building a feature called Projects, which is coming out soon, where it's going to look more like Manus that does 30 minutes worth of work, reads through like long websites, and like potentially builds mini web apps for you that you can like schedule and like build tasks and workflows around. We're building a new browser that lets you like provide you a full personal context to the model. And that way the model is not just giving you information from the web, but contextualizes it in whatever is like relevant to you that day, allows you to execute tasks on the browser, and becomes a true personal companion for you. While you're on the web, any site, any task, it's always there for you to help.
I want to just double click on what Aravind just mentioned in passing in a very modest fashion. He said, a new browser, right? So this guy has not only taken on Google on search, he now wants to build Google Chrome and make that better too. So it's two battles at once against Goliath.
It may look like that, but I think the browser is the real battle. We kind of earned our right to play that battle by building a better search product in the beginning. But the real battle is honestly the Omni box, the search box. Whoever owns that is going to get everyone's traffic at the end of the day. Otherwise, you're just going to imagine the world like, oh, like I'm having, AI app A, AI app B, C. I open all these as different tabs. I'm going to type in the same prompt across all of them, check the answer. All that's going to go away, just like how, there were like 20 different search engines, and like eventually the one that built the browser and integrated search right in the Omnibox won. So I think the same thing is going to be true in AI, where the one that blends navigations, exploration, information-seeking questions and answers, tasks and agents, all in like one single search box, is going to win. So you got to start building for that moment today. It's going to take at least half a decade to like make it truly work, and that's what our company is going to do.
In the future, somebody will write a book about Perplexity. It will be called The Omnibox.
Sure.
So I think you referred to this already once. You mentioned the innovator's dilemma, and I think it's worth just, again, going deeper on that, because this is the really wild thing, right? So Google is a company which has been working on AI, in fact, leading on AI, for more than a decade. In 2012 and 2014, it bought two other companies. One of them was led by Jeff Hinton, who won a Nobel Prize for his contributions to AI last fall. Another one was founded by Demis Hassabis, who also won a Nobel Prize last fall for his contributions. So these Nobel Prize winners were inside Google building AI. Google understood that AI mattered then. On top of that, Google completely understood that it could be disrupted by AI. It knew all about stories like the famous Xerox PARC story where Xerox PARC invented the graphical user interface, it invented the mouse, it invented Ethernet, it built a prototype PC, it circulated it to its own staff. It never shipped a single PC to any customer outside. It let Steve Jobs take all these ideas, put it into Apple, and Apple was off to the races. So this is the classic story of the innovator's dilemma, where the incumbent company invents something but doesn't do anything with it. And Google knows all about that story. So here you have this Goliath, which understands AI, understands that it can be disrupted, understands that disruption happens because you have an innovator's dilemma, and yet you're saying they can still be entrapped into this trap that they saw coming. I mean, you've worked at Google. Why is it that way?
Where does Google make all its money from? So Google has a diversified revenue model today. Anyone who looks at their like transcripts of earnings calls can see them presenting revenue from search and ads and YouTube and cloud and whatever, so many different sources. But the profit margins, they report 32% or something like that, 30 to 35% margins. Majority of that operating margins is coming from search advertising being close to 80 to 90% profitable. So that pays for everything else. YouTube is not a high margin business because you have to pay creators a lot, storage is expensive. Cloud is not a high margin business. That's why they never even went for building a cloud business compared to Amazon or Microsoft, for whom building a cloud business was a no-brainer idea, because it's way lower margins than search advertising. Same thing with Waymo. It's going to be pretty good, but it's never going to be as high margins as search advertising. So when you and same thing with AI, by the way. AI may never be as high margins, may never be 80 to 90% margins as search 10 blue link advertising ever, which is okay. When you have no business, building something with positive margins at scale is a great idea. But when you have an existing business with 80 to 90% margins at the scale of the world's population, going for something way lower margins, even though it's going to potentially kill you, puts you in a trap. So that's basically what's happening. And if that money from search advertising stops funneling all the Google's research and development efforts, it's going to be hard to pay for everything else. So that's why obviously they're letting go a lot of people. They're trying to cut down on all wasteful spending, letting go of a lot of bets. They're trying their best to adapt, but it's very hard to change things when you have hundreds of thousands of people working in a company. It's no longer your game to win. It's a game to defend and protect and constantly think about 10 different effects of every action. Your brand is at risk. AI is not perfect. It's going to make mistakes, especially it's going to lead to hallucinations. It's going to say you have to use glue to stick cheese to your pizza. For Perplexity to make that mistake, nobody cares. Yeah, whatever, it's just one mistake. 1 in a 10 mistake for us is fine. How did the startup get 9 out of 10 right? That's how people would think. For Google, 1 out of 10 mistakes at the scale of 10 billion daily queries, it's 1 billion mistakes a day. And even if X% of that gets amplified on social media, your entire brand that you've built over 2 decades about how Googling it means you basically got the answer, you basically got the information, completely gets broken and destroyed. And you have the same brand as every other upcoming AI startup that, yeah, it kind of works. That's how people think about Gemini now. It kind of works. It's not like Google where it just really works. So I think that asymmetry in brand risk, the innovator dilemma and disrupting your own extremely high margin business, and the fact that they're so large and it takes ton of people to sit in the same table and agree on everything to make any moves, is the reason that we even have a chance to do something here. I'm not saying everything is guaranteed to succeed for us. If that is the case, then it's pretty obvious where all the investor money should flow into. But I think it's the first time in 2 decades that Google is extremely vulnerable.
Yeah. Possibly the first time since they were founded, pretty much. I mean, more than 2 decades.
Yeah.
It's ironic, isn't it, that a couple of people from the incumbent companies are on your cap table. They backed you at the beginning. They probably didn't realize they were backing their own nemesis.
It's a good hedge.
For the individuals.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something which you referred to in passing before. AI is an A+ technology, but the business model might be C-, C+, or we don't know. I mean, it's people are trying to find the right business models.
Yeah.
And one could argue that, even if, let's say, take OpenAI as an example, even if the product is super impressive, it's making an enormous loss, it's burning capital, and the prospect that one day it will be able to raise prices when DeepSeek and Meta are producing open source models that are free, how much pricing power do they have? So you can be A+ on the technology and still not really have a business model. As you survey the AI field, and you must think about this every day, who do you think is closest to discovering a good business model, and how would you sort of stack rank them?
I would say that there is no business model in AI right now other than subscriptions from consumers, enterprise subscriptions, and which is the same thing, and an API. If you have some models or some kind of unique offerings people use to build their own products. These are the three things that everybody's pursuing. And some people might try ads in the product itself, but all that is still pretty early days. I would say I would try to push back on this rising prices thing. I think it feels a little weird to pay for an AI that just gives you an answer, because eventually you're like, yeah, the open source model is going to do it, and it's going to be cheap, and it's going to be free, and why would I pay for it? But I think it's going to be much more natural to pay for an AI that is a true assistant. It really has so much context over you. You spend some time actually training it. Not exactly like training a model, but telling it your preferences. And it kind of understood that, kind of got all that. You already put in some amount of investment and time into it. And now it got used to you, your style, your context, your data, and it's daily doing workflows and tasks for you. That's going to be much more easier to rationalize paying for. And that's going to be something worth way more than $20 a month. Kind of like hiring a person. Except that person does so many different tasks for you. They're a jack of all trades. I think that would be the model that I would say makes AI an extremely high margin business, because the cost of operating that kind of assistant will go down as models get commoditized and capabilities. But the value it provides is only going to go up because it increasingly gets better, more reliable, keeps absorbing context again and again, keeps learning from your past interactions, and then you cannot just live your life without it.
But I guess what we need to focus on is, what is the moat? I mean, you can have a product that is completely wonderful, people love it, they get enormous value, you have this personal assistant, I get all that. But if the other guy is offering a similar thing and charging not very much, and then there are multiple competitors, we've got, just in the US, let's say 4 or 5 contenders, and then there's a whole bunch in China, and that's before you count Mistral in France, before you count the ones in the Middle East and so forth. So it's a crowded field.
Sure.
And
because
I think
the price is high, so everybody wants at least some piece of the pie. The pie is so big. I mean, I would say yes, there are many people, but like I said, obsession and attention to detail and just caring about the problem are still in scarcity. If that was not the case, then I wouldn't be sitting here. Our company would be done. Google would have already solved this problem. OpenAI would be dead, because they have all the resources, they have all the talent, they have all the money, right? They have the billion user surface area. Okay, leave Google, let's say Microsoft, right? They don't have the innovator dilemma. So because the amount of energy it takes to actually care about every single detail, handling all the corner cases of where these models fail, shipping a product that is just there. No AI product is 100% reliable, because these are all stochastic, non-deterministic models. So you can never be sure if something will really work. But just passing the threshold where it's already so useful and people are willing to bear with mistakes is still art. If that wasn't the case, then and there are a lot of competitors, the one with the most money will always win. But that's not the case right now. So that's why people like us still exist, and there's a chance to truly win this game if you have the best execution capability.
Okay, well, we'll be following your journey with excitement. Great to talk to you,
Thank you.
Aravind. Thank you.